Every time I ask for a portfolio, I want to know what your goal is. What's your plan? What are you trying to do with this amount of money? A lot of times people will have a top 20 portfolio and expect a 20x. And I'm like, listen, man, like you're probably not going to 20x a coin that's in the top 10. If your goal for your portfolio is, 10 to 20x, you need to pick the projects that have room to run.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show today. I'm super excited. AJ in the studio. How you doing, man?
Hey, another day in the life. Thanks so much for having me. How you doing?
Do you mind to give us an intro and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure, man. So, I've been full-time crypto for a long time. I kind of lost track of like the exact timeline. It all feels like a blur, basically after 2020. I got into crypto in 2016. I actually bought Bitcoin to play poker online. And then I got to a point where I said, maybe I should stop playing the poker and just keep buying the Bitcoin. And then, from there, it kept going. And then 2021, I got a full-time job writing for BitBoy Crypto, who was, BitBoy was at the peak at the time when I got the job, and I was his main writer for a long time. And now, I kind of gained my reputation through being there. And now I have my own channel. I do my own stuff, Ben and friends, but I don't write for him anymore. And it's just been full-time content for a little while here now. So I actually have only had my YouTube channel up for probably 3 months now. 3 months I've been on full-time on YouTube on my own channel. Quite the ride, but it's a big learning experience. And, one day at a time, I've just been systematically trying to get more ideas, like kind of different ideas. I spent a lot of time seeing what everyone else was doing in terms of crypto content. And and from writing for Ben, I really have seen the most efficient way to make the best content. And that's like really has been my main goal.
Amazing. Yeah. And by the way, congrats on the 11,000 subscribers. By the way, your link in the comments down below. Love your channel, love your Twitter. So guys, if you have not seen it, go and check it out because AJ is awesome. And I've been watching your videos since a while, actually. I remember, I think one of the first videos I've seen was a Cardano deep dive you've done back in the days, which I loved. So super happy to see you producing content.
Yeah, back at BitBoy Crypto, everyone found me from the price prediction department. So like Ben would have like a phone, and then he would call me, and I would like pick up this phone, and he would call the price prediction department, and I would do a price prediction on a coin. And it actually started off as a segment on the BitBoy Crypto live stream show, but then we realized that own thing, and then I did a price prediction on that channel for months and months and months, and that's when everyone really figured out who I was and wanted that kind of content from me once I got my own channel. And now here we are, and I just did my Algorand price prediction last week, and it's one of the best performing videos I've had on the channel so far. So definitely going to have some more content like that coming in the future for sure.
Nice, amazing. Yeah, I remember those times. Where do you see the market going? I mean, do you buy into the 4-year cycle?
Yeah, I mean, great question. Like, dude, right now Bitcoin's in a weird spot. Like, we're holding that 40,000 is a psychological level and actually a good support resistance level. A lot of times psychological levels aren't legitimate support resistance levels, but 40,000 is both. And even 42,000 is an important level. And Bitcoin has been holding that, but the macro is a little wonky considering we were expecting interest rate cuts to come in March. Now it has been pretty clear that Jerome Powell has taken a more hawkish approach. We are not expecting the interest rate cuts. And if you look at the money flow on, say, like a 2-day chart on Bitcoin or a 1-day chart, the money flow is curved up from the Q4 pump and now is curving down. And although we're holding support resistance levels, I can't ignore a lot of bearish divergences on large timeframes with the decrease. The halving is coming. And so far, the 18 months after the halving has been the top. This has been the case every time. We have not broken from this pattern yet. Anthony Scaramucci said, whatever the price of Bitcoin is today, multiply it by 4, and that's the price of Bitcoin in 18 months. Is this going to happen again? Well, no one has a crystal ball. We don't know, but we can kind of base it off the history of Bitcoin that this has happened every time. And so really it comes down to what is Bitcoin going to be in 70 days? We're basically roughly 70 days away from the halving. It's February 7th. I hope it can hold that 40,000 support resistance, but based off the macro, the interest cut not coming, I don't think that's priced in yet. A lot of kind of question marks with regulation, like always. I mean, there's a lot of what if factors right now. And then, when you really consider the macro of macro in terms of America maybe going to war, maybe not going to war. There's so many factors. And I mean, to be fair, war equals money, and money requires quantitative easing. The quantitative tightening that we did that caused the interest hikes in 2022, consequently the dollar gets more powerful, the markets lose power. And then the dollar, with the interest hikes they did before, that really took its toll on the stock market and took its toll on crypto. So now we're kind of in a point where the money printer isn't going back on yet, but I feel like if there's a macro war of some sort, that will force quantitative easing. The thing with the halving cycle is that we've never, 18 months after every halving in crypto just so happened to be in a macro phase of quantitative easing. We've never have had a halving 18 months after a halving play out in a phase of quantitative tightening. So it really, the macro conditions mix with the timing of the halving and the 18 months after it. It is going to be interesting to see how it plays out this time. But long term, I'm bullish. Short term, I'm iffy.
I think a retest on a lower level would be actually healthy. I mean, I know it's going to scare some people out. They're going to call 10,000 and 9,000. There's a CME gap at 9,000, that kind of stuff. But I think it will be exactly. Yeah. But I think it will be very
there
healthy.
Is a CME gap at 9,000. Yeah.
Exactly. But people are going to call for it as much as they were calling like $1,000 when we were kind of averaging the 3K in the previous cycle bottom, right? So I think it would be healthy to see Bitcoin retesting those levels and then we skyrocket. I also buy in the 4X by the time of the halving, what Scaramucci said, like you said. I think it's a good case. And I mean, the only variable will be the ETF because, BlackRock has been buying, Fidelity has been buying. So maybe that will be different. We don't know. But it's always funny how people are looking for this time a different thing, but it's always the same. Kind of repeats.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the ETF, like with, regulation right now. It was funny how out of the 5 votes at the SEC, Gary Gensler was actually the tie-breaking vote for the Bitcoin ETF. And when that happened, I kind of scratched the back of my head and realized, why is he doing this? Why is he giving us the ETF? And I realized why. Because the SEC is only going to give us, they're only going to co-sign what they can control. They're only going to co-sign what they can control. And now the vote that just happened on the SEC, coming down on DeFi, the vote that just happened yesterday or the day before, it was a 2-3 vote, but Gary being the tiebreaker against DeFi, making automated money makers having to register with the SEC. I'm not sure how software gets in the SEC register, but registrar or whatever. But that's what I'm saying by they're only going to co-sign what they can control. So obviously they'll give us Bitcoin. They can, have institutional, investments in Bitcoin. But when it comes to DeFi and when it comes to the real ethos of crypto, they're going to try to cut out the entire instrument at once and not systematically go after every coin, but kind of kill the house that they all live in. And that's what they're really trying to do right now. There's a lot of question marks when it comes to like the next couple of years in regulations. It's pretty terrifying when you think about it.
What do you think about the ETF for Ethereum? Do you think they're gonna let it pass or it's too early?
I would love to see that happen because really the ETF for Bitcoin kind of opened up the Pandora's box, right? And, obviously the conversation for Ethereum and XRP even has, that conversation has bounced off the walls pretty fast. I really feel if it doesn't happen now, it will probably happen in at least a year or two. But Ethereum getting an approval would really open up Pandora's box even more. Because then we all start to speculate, all right, is Solana going to get one? Is Chainlink going to get one? Is Cardano going to get? That's going to be what we're all saying. But really, I think that the projects that are going to be used the most by the government or by banking, by the legacy system, those are the projects that are most likely to get ETFs. My guess is that Chainlink is going to cheat a couple steps and be one of the first altcoins to get an ETF approval based off the cross-chain interoperability protocol, otherwise known as the CCIP. It's like a bridge between, not just between DeFi and DeFi, but a bridge between TradFi and DeFi. And I think because so many banking, and institutions are going to be using CCIP, not to mention Chainlink's, value as being like most popular oracle in crypto. I mean, 90% of Chainlink is 90% of oracles in crypto, 90% market share. I mean, they have a monopoly on the space. So I think that Chainlink is the ETF conversation. Like I hear people with Ethereum, I think it's going to happen, but I'm really thinking Chainlink like down the road.
Yeah, I like how you put it. You said, they're going to open up and pick the one they need the most. I also agree on Chainlink. It's funny, I was talking to Crypto Zombie not long ago, and people call me a maxi because I hold majority of my crypto in Bitcoin, but I do have some altcoins that I like. Chainlink, one of them, Cardano, one of them.
Yeah.
So I'm familiar with the project. I love what they are doing. And I think, like you said, they're tokenizing real asset. There is so much they will potentially look into it. Speaking about altcoins, any favorites? I mean, anyone you like in particular?
So on my channel, I do a segment called Rate My Portfolio, where on the live stream, people will send in their portfolios and I'll give them a score from -5 to 100. And there's a reason the scale starts at -5 and it doesn't start at 0, because there are some -5 portfolios out there. But, I really kind of, in terms of altcoins collectively, individual projects for sure, but I kind of feel like an even distribution of projects with real utility, real use case, vibrant, contagious communities. I kind of look at things as a whole, but in terms of individual altcoins, going to have to say Algorand, HBAR, VChain, the Graph, Quant, Render. I feel like maybe some ordinal type projects have probably going to do pretty well in the bull run. Obviously, I like Chainlink, XRP, Cardano, but those ones are kind of higher up the list. Like a lot of people, they'll have a portfolio of mostly top 20 crypto coins, and then they say their goal, because every time I ask for a portfolio, I want to know what your goal is, what's your plan, what are you trying to do with this amount of money. A lot of times people will have a top 20 portfolio and expect a 20x, and I'm like, listen, man, like you're probably not going to 20x a coin that's in the top 10 or even the top 20. It's very unlikely to happen. But really, when you kind of go down the list, if your goal for your portfolio is 10 to 20x, you need to pick the projects that have room to run. You need to align your coin selection with the goal of your portfolio. So really, when you kind of get from like 30 down, like near protocol below, is really where you get into a lot of the coins I said, like the Graph, VChain, Algorand, HBAR, Quant. Those are coins between $1 billion and $3 billion. And, those coins going from, 1 billion to 10 billion or 3 billion to 15 billion, that's not asking that much, considering, people like how much money would it take for, XRP to 10x? Trillions of dollars. So really from a perspective of, I feel like if you're in crypto and you have a big bag, holding a lot of Bitcoin, holding a lot of Ethereum, I feel like that's a safe bet if you've been in the game for a while and you kind of know what your goals and expectations are. But for the people out there that only have $5,000-$10,000 that are trying to get the most amount of upside as possible, I'm not pointing them towards Bitcoin. I'm not pointing them towards Ethereum. I think that they should probably fill their portfolios with projects that have room to run. Anything from number 30 by market cap below should be most of the targets. And really, I'm leading by example. That's what I'm personally targeting too.
I completely agree. I think there is a misconception when it comes to price and market cap. Some people maybe look into Cardano and they think, oh, Cardano is only 50 cents. It's going to go to $100, $1,000 because Bitcoin is like $50,000. No, it doesn't work like this.
Yeah, I have learned about like the crypto inflow multiplier, basically saying like the company, like anytime you see like a valuation of a company, you kind of just say, nope, that's bullshit. Because if you consider if like a coin has, say that there's a supply of 10 coins and 5 of them are held by the people and then 5 of them are out and everyone buys 5 for $1, that they would say that the market cap would be $10, even though there's 5 off to the side. And that's how like the valuations kind of get blown out of proportion. So there is a kind of a skew between what the market cap is and what the market cap really is. But at the end of the day, the price is the market cap divided by the supply. And no matter how they count up what the market cap is, we still know how much work has to happen regardless of how it's actually calculated, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, super well said. I completely agree. I also advise to people, there is no such a thing as perfect portfolio. Depends on your risk tolerance, your age, your time frame. There are so many variables, but I think there are some boxes where you can put people in and say, okay, if you are, 20 years old and you want to go high risk, then you can do this kind of stuff, as opposed to not financial advice, of course, but we have some options to pick. But I also like to see in a way where I like to take my gains into Bitcoin. So when I do those gambles and they multiply by 10, by 100, by 1,000, depends on the project, then I scoop the profit and I securely put them into Bitcoin. But like you said, I wouldn't advise to someone to go all in Bitcoin if they have $1,000 and they want to make it, because of course Bitcoin is going up, but it's not going to be as aggressive in profits as a low cap coin, like you said. Do you look into narratives as well? How do you hunt them?
Kind of hunt coins in terms of the friendliness of their tokenomics situation. I'm a big tokenomics guy. I don't generally like getting in situations where the supply has a long way to go until it's totally vested. If you even XRP is only 55% of the way there. And, you know, eventually those coins are going to, even though the whole escrow thing that they do, where they put coins in and pull most of them back and put them in another escrow account, regardless of the semantics, you know, XRP's supply is basically going to double before it's all said and done. And it's already it moves very slow. So, you know, I always consider tokenomics. I would prefer most coins to be at least 70 to 80% vested. Two coins I target: Quant has one of the best tokenomic situations in crypto. It's 99% of the way there, and there's 5 million coins less than Bitcoin in that supply, and it's 99% vested. So when money comes in, the price goes up. It doesn't have to chase the supply up the hill. Even the graph is well over 90%. You know, Algorand's over 80%, HBAR's over 70%. So there is kind of a spread, but I do tend to target friendly tokenomic situations for my long-term holds, because I don't want to be like sitting in a coin where the supply is inflating and like making the value of my coins get less and less. So always look for tokenomics. In terms of niches, I think oracles are big. I like the Pith project on Solana. I like Chainlink. I also think Gora is a project on Algorand that is, pretty kick-ass oracle. And I feel like if Gora could even do 3% dominance in oracles, they're going to kill it. If they could even get 3% of the market share, you know what I'm saying? Also, I do target some like kind of gaming type projects. I think the AI niche is one that people shouldn't sleep on. In terms of AI projects, you know, obviously the graph is the Google of Web3, very big on the graph. AGIX, Singularity Net. I think once the marketplace goes past the beta step, I think that one's going to be intimidating in terms of like a real AI marketplace. Also PAL AI. I mean, PAL's outside the top 400 and has more partnerships. You know how in 2020, 2021, everyone was partnering with Chainlink because they wanted access to the Oracle. Now, all these projects are partnering with PAL. They have over a couple hundred partnerships outside of the top 400 because everyone wants access to their AI bots, to the language models. So it's really interesting to see the AI narrative in crypto and where they intersect, and like how much people want access to having to AI, like the access to AI. I mean, even with the PAL, I'm going to do a beta test with them to actually have a PAL bot in I don't have a Telegram yet, but I'm going to have one. And there's going to be a digital twin of me that, you know, aggregates everything I've ever said on YouTube, on Twitter, and you could ask the digital me, hey, digital AJ, what do you think of the tokenomics of optimism, or what are support resistance levels on Chainlink? And it will tell you what I've said on YouTube. Wow. In my Telegram group.
Mad.
Crazy. Yeah. So AI narrative is a big one for me, for sure.
There's not going to be one winner. I completely agree. If you think about it in any market, for example, sportwear, Nike maybe might dominate, but there is still a huge amount for Under Armour, for Reebok, for Adidas. So they share, right? Yep. So I think it's going to be the same in oracles, in gaming, in AI, like you said. There might be someone who can maybe take most of the market, but still it might be 50%, 60%, but there is still another chunk left for other coins to come up. And like you said, if they're a small cap, scoop up all those gains. And I'm also really bullish on in games. I like Immutable. I like what they're doing with the passport option. I like some projects. I mean, I'm not an altcoin guy. I'm kind of a old school Bitcoiner. So majority of my portfolio is hold steady in Bitcoin, but I like to speculate with some every now and then and just pick some for a cycle maybe and gamble, you can say, on some of them. But like you said, I think to find gains, you have to go down the list, because if you stay in the blue chips or top, even 50, like you said, yeah, we'll see maybe like, I don't know, 2 or 3 folds, but that's as far as we go, you know, and it's going to become harder and harder to multiply your gains. I mean, if you're looking for the 100x, then I mean, there's no point in buying Cardano, for example, at this point, because he already had, as much as I like Cardano and I like Chainlink, they might go up tenfold, maybe.
That's a really good point. Like, I think people, because of what crypto has done in the past, for instance, I bought Dogecoin at 0.004 and sold it at 60 cents. I've seen those types of gains. A lot of people have seen those kind of dream scenarios play out. And I think a lot of people, the reason a lot of people don't do well with altcoins is because they're so in love with the dream. I always tell my audience, don't fall in love with your bags. Like, kind of be more realistic. I think some people that think, oh, my bags will easily 25x. And I look at their bag and I think to myself, are you sure about that? Like, are you sure about that? Because when to put it in perspective, I've told this story before. I'll tell it again very quickly. When I was a little kid, I have a memory of my grandfather and my Uncle Boo clashing Coors Light cans, cheersing each other because they got 8% in the stock market in 1 year. And they were tickled pink. Over 8% in 1 year back in the early 90s. You know what I mean? So I think when people don't understand what they're saying when they expect their portfolio to 20x, that doesn't just happen. Unless you're an avid leverage trader, you're not going to see those types of gains unless you get that lucky and pick the perfect coin and put enough capital in the perfect coin for it to matter. So, we really got to temper expectations. And people don't like when I say that. They think I'm bearish. But I don't want to see you not sell at the top because you're in love with your bags. I'd rather tell people what they need to hear instead of what they want to hear.
Yeah, I love that. Super, super well said. I mean, I remember back in the days when 20 years ago, I wanted to invest in some investments because I had some money. And I remember talking to people because I was in Italy back then, and we have Switzerland nearby, and there's people that used to do exchange in Forex, we buy British pounds and we sell euros, whatever. And the return was like 4 or 5%. And it was like, wow, that's incredible. This kind of stuff, like you said. And I believe that make money is actually easy. Keep money, though, that's another story. So most of the people, sadly, they'll buy the top and sell the bottom. So, and even if someone is going to make it, it's going to be the story like, that those millionaires, they win the lottery and 8 months are broke because they don't know don't know how to keep them, right? So I completely agree with you. I think there is a huge amount of education and also expectations. You're buying a whatever meme coin, and it might go really well, like the Shiba millionaire, Doge millionaire, but those people have lost everything because they married the coin, exactly like you said. Da Vinci says all the time, when it doubles, sell half, which is the little old lady strategy. That's one way to do it. But you can skin in so many different ways as long as you take profit, which is going to be my next question to you, which is, how are you going to plan into the market for the next stop? Are you going to DCA out as much as you probably DCA in? What's your strategy for the next stop?
My exit strategy is different for each coin. I think a lot of people say random guy Joe has a $10,000 portfolio. A lot of times you'll hear people say like, oh, my bag's $10,000. When it hits $100,000, I'm going to sell. And I just think to myself that you don't know what you're doing, do you? Because, you're right. DCAing out the way you DCA in, that sounds good, but I feel like people don't plan it out completely. What I do is I have a price prediction based off of relevant dominance levels for each coin. And if the total crypto market cap ranges between, last time it was total at the top was 3. If this time, if it ranges between 6 to 8 and maybe 10, that will be like the range of my price prediction if a coin can achieve a previous dominance level. That's how I get a lot of my price prediction. So with that said, I will have levels set for a coin. So say, H-bar, for instance, it's around 8 cents right now. So I'll have my levels on the way up, for each thing, for like each like distribution. And there's a scenario in each case where if it goes to 70 cents but doesn't go to $1, what happens then? If it goes to $1 but doesn't go to $1.50, what happens then? So really, it's more about selling as it falls and not selling as it comes up. And so what I'll do is I'll probably take like, if it hits 70 cents, I'll probably take like 30% out, leave a lot for exposure. But then if it falls below 55 cents, I'll pull the parachute and take the rest of the profits, but I'll leave most of the exposure in, because if it goes to 70, it could go to $1. If it goes to $1, I'll take another 20% out, leave the exposure. But in that case, if it goes back to 70, I'm pulling the chute that way. So it's really kind of you have to plan. And this is why I don't suggest people hold any more than 8 coins. I don't like when people say I have 30 coins in my portfolio. And I ask myself, do you have a job? Because managing that portfolio perfectly is a full-time job. You're not going to maximize. Each coin tops out differently, even if it's a different 4-hour time set or a couple weeks apart, a couple days apart. You're never going to time that perfectly. I mean, we're never going to sell the exact top. We're never going to sell the exact bottom. The money's made in the middle. And we really need to focus on managing each coin the best we can. So in each coin, what I do is I have my price prediction for that coin and what would happen in scenario 1 if I sold 20% at 7, another 20% at 100, another 30% at a 110, and then the rest if it turns around on the way back at 80 cents or something like that. In that scenario, I have written down how much money I have in. If I sold here, sold here, sold here, sold here, how much money would I have? And I go through and create 3 or 4 different scenarios for each coin on if it goes here but not here, goes here but goes here in each scenario. And I'm holding like 10 coins. And each coin, there's 10 coins, 4 scenarios per coin. So I have it all written down based off of what could happen with each coin. And then I can say, oh, if my portfolio right now is $50,000, scenario 1 would be 500,000. Scenario 2 would be $1 million. Scenario, you see, so I kind of get my overall goal would be achieved by playing each scenario out in each coin. It's a lot more work than people think.
Yeah, I love it. I completely buy into the idea of the plan and scaling into the DCA. 100% with you. I also have a time as I'm sure you also have as a metric, and I combine a time because, like we said in the beginning, I also believe Bitcoin is going to do 4 times from the halving. I think it's fair according to what happened in the past, which means whatever Bitcoin does is going to impact the altcoin market. So having also a time frame helps me, because in the previous run, I only had a kind of a price range, and I could have done better profit-wise. So I now have this thing, which is, okay, price targets, a plan. Again, like you said, I have 4 coins in my portfolio. So, and you might think nice and easy, but it's not, because it's a lot of work because you have to think about all the scenarios. And then my final question to you, because I know you have to run, so I won't abuse of your time, but do you take profit into stable coins? I mean, what's your plan into profit taking?
Yeah, I feel like most of the time I go to stable coins. I have experimented with profit taking into Bitcoin and Ethereum in the past. It kind of bit me a little bit in 2022. I've kind of made like a $10,000 mistake trying to take profits into Bitcoin when I'm just thinking to myself, well, if all coins are falling and Bitcoins are falling, why am I not going into stable coins, if that makes sense? So, but I still did well in 2021, but I could have done better. And I know the mistakes that I've made. And, I didn't do bad in, back in like 2018, 2017, when there was that little run up there too. I did okay both times, but I know now like where I did fine, but I could have done way better. So now it's kind of like systematically planning each coin. And like I said before, but for sure, I am taking profits into stable coins. In terms of going back to fiat, I know that's where a lot of the tax situations kind of really get confused. There's a lot of, I don't really want to get into taxes on this, but it is something people have to consider. My advice is that if you're making money, good money in crypto, hire a CPA or a tax associate of some sort to help you do that. I'm not going to get into that topic, but I am going to say that if you can exist in the crypto ecosystem without going back to fiat, that's better. If I could buy my house, if I could buy groceries or pay for my car or whatever with crypto, I'm going to do as much of that as I can. My Spanish teacher always told me, I was in 10th grade and I could not figure out Spanish to save my life. And I would always say, Miss Robinson, what does this word mean in English? What does this word mean in English? And she said, AJ, you're thinking about it all wrong. You need to think of it in Spanish. And then I really kind of have converted that idea to crypto, that it doesn't matter that much to me what something means into the dollar. I want to start thinking things in terms of crypto. I want to think about it in Spanish. You know what I'm saying? So I think the most ways we can find to leave our value in the crypto ecosystem, even if it's in stable coins, have that translate to the real world. The more we can do that, the better, because obviously the dollar, with the rise of the BRICS nations and everything, and the dollar is kind of losing its dominance. I wouldn't be surprised if the dollar lost the world reserve currency title in my lifetime. Wouldn't be surprised if that happened. So, I'd rather be tethered up or in crypto than with cash money anyway.
I also love the language reference. It worked like this in my mind. I mean, I lived in many different countries. I had to face many different languages. And one of the trick was to, forget how it was in the original or default language, and just like, otherwise you would have got stuck into a paradox. So it was a really good tip from your teacher. It also changed my rewiring for sure.
I still never figured out Spanish, by the way. never got it down.
If you speak English, you can go anywhere, and it's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. For the sake of the argument, I'm facing the opposite problem, which is I don't want to go into fiat because my life is entirely gravitates into crypto. The whole thing is upside down, and when I go into fiat, I'm like, now I have to go to the bank and deposit whatever because there is no taxes here, so we don't have to worry about it. But still, it's a headache. But like you said, the best thing you can do is probably hire someone who's an expert, depending on where you live and all this kind of stuff. But I also like your thinking of you don't have to go back, because there is also a practicality of if you go back to fiat, besides all those taxes and implications, you don't have to exchange again and pay fees, whether if you stay in crypto, it's probably more agile. Any metals, any gold, any stocks, none of that stuff in your portfolio?
No, I'm a straight up crypto guy. I've played around on Robinhood before. I messed around. I dabbled kind of back in the day, but for a long time, it's just been straight crypto. I'm so dedicated to crypto. I feel like I would be betraying my fans if I was in the S&P or something like that. I watch the stock market. I think there's a slight correlation between the stock market and crypto and the dollar and crypto, but I don't trade it. But I still keep my eye on it because the overall markets, they're all risk assets. Let's get honest. They're all connected somehow.
Yeah, same. And also I would feel I would make some terrible mistakes because, I don't have my expertise in none of these areas. So I'd rather stick with what I know for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Stay in your wheelhouse. Yeah.
Exactly. But hey, Jay, I know you have to jump. So thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. All your link in the comments down below. Guys, take a pause, go and check AJ because he's amazing. You will love his Twitter account. His YouTube videos are awesome. So go and check him out.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, man. We'll do this again. Let's circle back in a couple months. We'll see. We'll do the updated video, but thanks everybody. And get rich or get wrecked. Have a great rest of your day. Later.
For sure. Cheers, buddy.